Question number 6, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr. Speaker, this question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he have confidence in the Minister of Justice, and if so, why?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yes. The Minister of Justice is doing a great job of making our communities safer. The Better Public Services results show that total crime has fallen by 17.6% since June 2011. Youth crime has fallen by a remarkable 37.3%, and violent offending has fallen by 9.1%. I'm particularly pleased with the achievements of the justice sector in Northland. This area has seen a 30% drop in the number of people appearing in courts in the last 4 years. I have great confidence in the Justice Minister delivering for the people of Northland and for the rest of New Zealand.
Supplementary question. How can he possibly have confidence in the Minister of Justice, who has failed to act in support of sexual assault victims Anne-Marie Forsyth and Karen Beaumont, who have had their own name suppression orders lifted in an attempt to reveal their attacker's identity?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, my understanding is that that was a matter for the judge.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston
Is he
Peters.
aware that name suppression was only granted to the paedophile who assaulted Mrs Forsyth and Beaumont to protect the victims' identities and not the offenders, and that as both Ms Forsyth and Beaumont have had their own name suppression orders lifted, their attackers should no longer be allowed to hide behind a cloak of legal secrecy?
The
Speaker,
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
matter of whether name suppression is granted or not is a matter for judges. This government, however, has tightened up the conditions under which people can apply for name suppression.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
What is more important to him as Prime Minister, the rights of victims or the rights of paedophiles? And if it's the rights of victims, does he believe that the victims of paedophiles should have the right for name suppression orders in favour of paedophiles removed?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, clearly the rights of victims, but that is a matter on a case-by-case basis for the judges to determine, and they often in these cases, for a variety of reasons, continue to allow to grant name suppression, for instance, if it would have a more detrimental impact on the victim because of the closeness potentially of the relationship between the person that has been convicted and the victim themselves.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Given that the Minister of Justice has known about this, has failed to act, would he as Prime Minister support New Zealand First Bill to give justice to the victims of paedophiles and have the criminal procedure removing paedophile name suppression bill pulled from the ballot to be read for the first time immediately after question time today?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, in answer to the last part, no. But if the member is really serious about this issue, he's always welcome to make an appointment and go and see the Minister of Justice and talk to her about it.
We won't do that. We won't do that.
Order. Question. Order. Order. Question. Order. Question number 7, Sarah Dowry.
Thank